Welcome to Facebook. Good to have you guys here. My name is Dan Rose. I run partnerships at Facebook. That's a job that means our relationship with companies like developers on our platform as well as mobile partners. We have companies that we engage with around M&A and media companies. So my team kind of spans all of the partnerships that Facebook has. And our platform partners are a big part of that. We really appreciate all of you being here today. I just wanted to kick off tonight's events with a few remarks, and then I'm going to hand it over to the team to talk about Facebook Login. But I thought I'd just start by kind of sharing with you some perspective on the Facebook platform, its origins, and kind of the evolution of Facebook platform to where we are today. I've had the good fortune of being at Facebook through the entire evolution of our platform, which has been fun and interesting and challenging at times for those of you who have been working with us for a long time. But it started in the spring of 2007 when we did our first F8 conference. And it's interesting because if you think back to that time, Facebook was actually quite a young company. We were about 3 years old. We had a few hundred employees. We had 24 million users when we did our first F8. And it was kind of a bold decision to take this very early stage product. I mean, if you think about the world we live in today, there are a lot of companies that have tens of millions of users, and it was really a pretty early stage startup to take that idea and launch it as a platform. But we had a vision, Mark had a vision for how we could take the social graph and expose it in ways that could really enable a lot of innovation that we wouldn't be able to do ourselves if we tried to build everything directly. And on the one hand, I think that decision to early on commit ourselves to being a platform really defined the company and defined our strategy and the way that we thought of ourselves and the approach that we took to a lot of different decisions. On the other hand, it was clear from the beginning that we had really unlocked something that we as a company weren't fully prepared to manage. There was an incredible amount of interest, and there were a lot of challenges that came along with the adoption of our platform by developers. And over the years, the number one piece of feedback that we've heard from our developer community is to really think about ways to make our platform more stable. And what that means is fewer changes and more predictability. And we've taken that feedback to heart. It's taken us a while, and it's taken us a while to scale. But the last few years, we've really been focusing on how do we take our platform in a direction where it can be more stable and predictable for developers. So we took a break from F8. The last F8 we did before this most recent one was almost 3 years ago. And we took a big step back and we looked at every different part of our platform and we asked ourselves that question. How do we build this in a way that is stable and predictable and durable and make sure that developers who are using our platform can run their business on top of it? And one of the key parts of the platform that has evolved over the last 7 years into something very meaningful for our developer community is Facebook Login. It's become one of the key ways that people using apps register, and it's become one of the main ways that developers are able to make sure that the people who are using their apps are doing so with an account and with an identity, and ultimately with a social graph. And so as we looked at Facebook Login and we thought about, okay, what are the ways in which this part of our platform is potentially not going to be stable or durable or predictable over time? The key thing that we saw as we asked developers and users for their feedback was that there was this trust issue. There was this question that people had before clicking that blue button about whether they want to give their information to the app that they're logging into and what information ultimately they're giving them by logging in with Facebook. And we got that feedback over and over and over again, not just from users, but also from some of our largest developers who said to us, hey, we want more people to log in with Facebook. It's better for us. But we think that you have a trust issue because we notice that people are choosing not to go through that flow. And when we ask our own customers, they tell us that the reason they choose that is because they're not comfortable with the amount of data that they're sharing. So in looking at that feedback and in looking at the product and the way the product's been used and the trends over time and the feedback from everybody that we talked to, we decided to relaunch Facebook Login with the new approach that you heard us talk about at F8 and that we're going to be talking about here tonight. And we think that this new approach is going to be really beneficial to the people who use our products, who now are going to have much more trust in the way that they interact. Developers, all of you, who now can rely on this being something that you can build into your app in a core way and know that it's going to be there and know that it's going to get used. And ultimately for Facebook, because we rely on these products being used and contributing value to our brand and to the people who use Facebook, not detracting value. And so when we get those three things in the right alignment, Facebook, developers, and people who use our products, we have found over time that when those three things magically come into alignment, we have something really powerful. And that's what we're trying to achieve with Facebook Login. We believe in this part of our platform as being critical to our strategy long term as an identity platform. We believe in it as something that can really add value to the ecosystem, and we believe in it as something that ultimately is really valuable to people who want to navigate across lots of applications. They want to have accounts, but they want to do it in a way that they feel comfortable with. And that's really what Facebook Login is all about. So with that introduction, I'm going to hand it off to the team who's going to walk you through all the things that we're doing and how you can participate in it. And again, I just want to thank you for your investment in our platform and for your time tonight, for coming out and spending time with us. Thank you. Peter from our product marketing team.
Thanks, Dan. Hi, everybody. So my name is Peter, and I'm here to welcome you to our very first Facebook Login workshop. So the first thing I want to say is that there are some really amazing apps in the audience today. And our goal today is nothing less than to help you guys build into your app the best Facebook Login experience that we've ever built. So let's get started. First, I'd like to just introduce the new login to you guys. And then I would like to talk about how you can integrate the new login into your app. So Facebook Login is a fast and convenient way for people to sign into your app. It's also one of our most popular products. Over the past year alone, people logged into Facebook over 10 billion times. But it wasn't always like this. Over the years, as Dan mentioned, we've been focused on improving logging based on people's feedback. When we first introduced logging back in 2008, it was known as Facebook Connect. And our vision was to bring people's Facebook identity to any website. It took us 2 years to realize that the world has gone mobile, so we took Facebook Login to mobile in 2010 for the very first time. Another 2 years passed, and we added additional controls to the login dialog to let people select the audience that they want to post to. But this wasn't enough, as you can see from this example.
I know I've had occasions where I did something that I logged in with Facebook, and suddenly there's a post on my wall saying, Zach did this. And I'm like, you don't need to tell the world I just did that. And sometimes it's not even like I don't care that people know, but it's spam.
So I think the takeaway here is that too many people associated logging with auto-sharing and auto-posting back to Facebook. So in late 2012, we decided to separate read, which allows apps to take information from Facebook, and write, which allows apps to post back to Facebook. Even this very small change led to a 10% increase in login conversion rates across all apps. So for us, it's kind of reinforced the notion that what's best for people is also best for apps and developers long term. So when we started thinking about the new Facebook login, we started by asking people what they wanted. And they really want 4 different things. First, people want more control over the information that they share with apps. Second, people want more clarity around when an app will post to Facebook. Third, people feel that some apps just ask for too many permissions in general. And finally, some people want to log in without sharing any information at all with apps. So let's look at how the new login dialog addresses these first 2 points. So let's say a person, in this case Mark, decides to log in to RDO with a new Facebook login. For many of you, this dialog is very familiar, but there are 2 key differences. First, we highlight that accepting this dialog does not let the app post back to Facebook. We also added additional control here called edit the info that you provide. When people tap on this control, this is really where the new login dialog shines. So in this second screen, people can see exactly what information they're sharing with an app. Here, Mark can see exactly his fake email address, so don't try to email him through that, and also the stuff that he likes. If Mark doesn't feel comfortable sharing the fact that he likes Lana Del Rey, he can simply deselect it along with his email. So this new login dialog gives people control over exactly what they want to share. So there's one additional change that we made to the new login dialog. Previously, when Ilya, picture here, logs into an app, he can share not only his photos, but also the photos of Deb and Mark, who are his friends. So if you're Mark or Deb, it's understandable that you'll be surprised or annoyed by this. So with the new login dialog, each person is responsible for what he or she can share. Ilya can no longer share Mark and Deb's photos when he logs into this app. So we showed the new login dialog to a bunch of people, and here's a snippet of what they had to say.
This site, this does not let the app post to Facebook. That's awesome.
I like the fact that you can choose the info that you're going to provide. That's different, and I like that better, because normally it's just, guess what, we're doing all these things because you are signing in through Facebook, and you're like, oh, okay, fine. So I do like that. That makes me feel more comfortable.
So I think the last bit is key. When people feel more comfortable, they're much more likely to tap on the blue button. They're much more likely to share their information with your app. And they're much more likely to actually sign into your app and enjoy the great experience that you built for them. And developers feel the same way. As Chris from RDO mentions, increased transparency for people is bound to lead to higher conversion rates for apps. And we're very early in the adoption process for new logging, but already we are seeing data showing that the new logging is seeing higher conversion rates than the previous version that we have. So that's the new Facebook login dialog. But we still need to address people's concern that some apps ask for too many permissions. Raise your hand if you've seen an app dialog like this. OK, raise your hand if you actually have an app that asks for this many permissions. I'm just kidding. Having worked on logging for over a year, I'm pretty happy to say that I've only seen this dialog twice in apps. But even 2 apps have a very negative impact on the entire ecosystem, including great apps that only ask for the permissions that they need. So we decided to add login review to our existing reviews for App Center and Open Graph. Here's someone from our review team explaining what login review is.
A new login review process where the goal is to partner with you to create the best possible experiences for your app's audience. Our login review process is based on 3 main things, and it's actually really simple. First, permissions are all about enhancing people's experiences in your app. People shouldn't feel frustrated or worried. So during the review process, we'll make sure that your app's only requesting the permissions it really needs. Second, people want to know when the apps that they use are going to post back to their Facebook profile. During the login review process, we'll make sure that your app clearly asks for permission to do this. Third, we make sure to test your Facebook login flow on a variety of devices to make sure that there are no crashes or error warnings. This may all seem really obvious, but it's going to make a huge difference when building trust with your app's audience.
So if you guys want autographs for the actress that we hired to film this video, she's right over here. But anyway, so I'll walk you guys through how to submit your app for review later. But the great thing about being here today is our review team is actually here. In fact, can you guys stand up? So this is a very unique opportunity to work one-on-one with our review team to get your app through review before you leave this building. So make sure to take advantage of this opportunity. So there's one final need that some people have, and that is to sign without sharing any information at all. And at F8, we introduced an entirely new product called anonymous logging. Anonymous logging is the easiest way for people to sign without sharing any personal information. They still have the benefits of Facebook logging. They won't have to enter a password. Anonymous logging works across devices. Now, as a developer, you might be thinking, why would I integrate this? It doesn't share any information at all. I advise you guys to think about anonymous logging as a way for people to try out your app first before upgrading to the full Facebook logging experience. So the new Facebook logging is available today for iOS, Android, and web. And that's going to be the focus of our hack today. If you guys are interested in anonymous logging, one of our engineers is here in the back, and he can tell you more about how you can join the beta and learn more about anonymous logging. Great. So now that we've kind of talked about the new logging, let's talk about how you can integrate it into your app. And to me, there's really 5 basic steps that you should follow. First, you should add our latest Facebook SDKs. We currently have the new logging built into our SDKs for iOS, Android, and the web, with support for the Unity SDK coming soon. Next, you should account for permission changes. Specifically, basic info is now called public profile. Public profile now no longer includes a user's friend list, so you have to ask for it separately. We've removed a bunch of extended friend permissions, like your friend's relationship status, your friend's likes, and so on. And we've also added new permissions for common use cases, like getting a list of places that a user has tagged. So all of this and more is available in this link, and I'll show that to you later on too. Of course, the biggest change with the new logging is the fact that people can now deselect individual permissions. And to adjust for this change, I recommend that you guys first get a list of permissions that people have declined. And these are the methods that you can use on iOS and Android. And on web, you can make a call to the me/permissions endpoint. Once you have a list of declined permissions, you can actually re-ask people for the same permissions later on in the app experience. So again, these are methods for asking for read and publish permissions later on in the experience. And you can also do this on the web. So here's an example on iOS requesting new read permissions. Notice how we've added a declined permissions message at the bottom here that basically right now just lists out all the permissions that people have declined. So let's say you've added the SDK, you've accounted for permission changes, and you've accounted for optional permissions. The next step really is to follow our logging best practices. And there are a lot of logging best practices, but there's really 5 key ones to remember. The first one is we recommend that you use the login button that's in our SDKs. It's very easy to integrate, and it also includes education for people seeing logging for the first time on what the new logging is. Number 2, you should also educate people on the home screen or wherever you show the Login with Facebook button why they should use Login with Facebook. So Weada, which is a local events app, does a great job at this. They say that you should log in with Facebook to see your friends' recommendations, and again, they will never post without your permission. Number 3 is very important. Make sure you ask for permissions in context. What does this mean? Let me give you an example for Facebook's own mobile app. Let's say I'm ready to update my status on Facebook, and I want to add a place, whether it's a restaurant or a landmark or anything else. So I click on this place logo. The next screen that Facebook shows me is Facebook's own dialog asking me to turn on location services. What's interesting is that if I tap on this, it doesn't actually turn on location services. The reason that Facebook is showing this dialog is because we want to filter out all the people that are going to tap cancel there. We want to only include the people who tap turn on location services, because in the next screen, we show the real iOS dialog for turning on location services. This way, people are much more likely to tap OK instead of don't allow. So when you're integrating Facebook logging, we encourage you to also think about adding your own dialog before it to filter out other people that aren't likely to accept those permissions that you're requesting. Because you know how painful it is for people to go into app settings and change permissions and so on. This is especially important when you're asking for permissions to publish back to Facebook. As you saw earlier, people are very scared about this. So make it very explicit, like this Foursquare example, when you're asking for permissions to publish. Foursquare, during a status update, makes people tap the F logo before asking for permissions to publish. Most people understand exactly why Foursquare needs these permissions. And finally, and most importantly, make sure you test your Facebook login flow across a variety of scenarios and devices. Especially with the optional permissions the new login introduces, you want to make sure that logging actually works in your app, right? If logging doesn't work, then your conversion rate is going to be 0. Great, so now you follow our best practices. The final step is to submit your app for login review. And the thing to keep in mind here is that if your app is just asking for public profile, friend list, and email, you don't have to submit your app for review at all. Only if you're asking for other permissions do you have to submit your app for review. And the review process is actually very simple. First, you click Start a Submission in your app dashboard. You select the permissions that you want to submit for review. You have to add a note to each permission. And the note should explain why you need the permission and also how the review team can kind of look at your app and see where in your app the permission is used. You also need to add just a generic note about what your app does and why it uses login with Facebook. And then you click Submit for Review after that. So we say here that we take 7 business days, but in reality, the turnaround process is a lot faster than that. And once your app has been approved, we have these checkboxes, or if your app needs additional changes, we have messages here specifying what you need to change to get your app approved. So that's basically it. Just to recap, integrate our latest Facebook SDKs, manage permission changes and account for optional permissions, follow as best practices, and work with the review team here to submit your app for review. If you get tired about hacking on logging, you can learn more about our other products in the hallway, where we have different booths for anonymous logging, app links, parse, and FB start. And also, dinner is right outside, so after I speak. So on behalf of everyone here at Facebook, I really want to thank you guys for being here and for helping us build a great Facebook logging experience. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter. That was great. I just wanted to go over a few more logistical details. So as Peter mentioned, there is dinner outside, so feel free to grab some food as well as some drinks. Then you can come right back in here and hack straight away. We'll have several Facebook engineers roaming around that can help you out. They should be in hoodies like the one I am wearing. Additionally, we have product booths right outside to the right as you're exiting for all of these products that Peter mentioned. And we'll also have login review office hours down the hall to the left with our developer operations team. We also have some pre-scheduled office hours, so we'll post that schedule up for certain apps that have time slots already booked. Otherwise, you're welcome to head to the room where the DevOps team is and talk to someone on that team. All right, thanks everyone.